the meetings that we've been having have been like really, really useful for people, even though they're not exactly what we plan to do with people, like one of our programs or something. But it's like the impact that is made in those moments. And I think because we pay attention to them, but we also listen when we're there. It's
Right.
not just like, hey, this is what we're going to do for you today.
Yeah. Well, that's what coaching is about, right? It's building that trust with your client so that they do feel comfortable and supported. And that's one of the things I love about coaching is that it's a non-judgmental environment. We're not here to pass judgment. We're here to help you figure out what the next thing is, what direction you need to go. And we need to get rid of things though and unpack the baggage that is slowing you down from moving to that next thing. And last night's meeting was very, very powerful. And I think it's really gonna help this person to move forward because he's carrying such weight.
Hmm.
And we've seen that this week. A lot of our clients are carrying such weight, and weight just slows you down. You gotta release your emotions. We've talked about that, like the importance of letting go of your emotions. And as I said last night, men are not taught to let go of their emotions. They have to be machismo and alphas, and this is the way that we're raised and cultured. And those feelings and emotions that never get out of you, they become the thing that slows you down and weighs you down from really getting to where you need to be.
Yeah. And I know you said that's what coaching's supposed to be, is all that. But most coaching, including us, it's not that all the time, and maybe the intention is that, but it's not. It's like, all right, here's the program. We're gonna bring you through it. We're gonna ask you these questions. We're gonna teach you these things. We're gonna discover this stuff, and then you'll get that result.
Right.
And it's many times that's where you have to start with people. It's like, what's the end result? But that's not really what they needed in those moments, and it's nerve-wracking for coaches because you're like, "All right, I wanna make sure I'm delivering on the promise that we had given," but then there's also momentarily this thing that needs to be talked about or worked through and worked
Mhm.
out and discussed so you can take those next steps, and the ability for us to go through and say like, "All right, I'm going to now divert this conversation to the thing that it seems like you need." It's hard because they're like, "Wait, but aren't I here for that, not this?" And then when we go there, yeah, they connect, but it's having that ability and making that impact, which is a struggle for any coach, whether it's us or people that we advise, to like, okay, well, what am I going out there and offering now? Because then all of a sudden you start to see this major impact that you make on people. It's like, well, that's the direction that we should head. And there's a framework to what we do and how we help people, but there's a million tentacles that go out to make that happen. And you almost want to get married to one or two of those tentacles because they worked in the moment, or you can see how more people need that. And it's trying to understand, how do we bring it back into the center and make sure that you're still focused on the main thing, and then all these other things support it.
Yeah. As you're talking, it's reminding me of this thing I used to do in quality when I was working in quality in one of my healthcare positions. It's the fishbone diagram where you try to understand the root cause analysis of what went wrong, right? There was the thing that happened and the thing that led to it. But along the way, there's so many different things that also contributed to the outcome that was the tragedy or the death or whatever it was. And you do this fishbone diagram because you think of a fish, it has one main vertebra that goes to the head and the tail, but then all these bones come off the top and the bottom of it, and all of those bones are connected to the main thing. And each of those things that contributed to that main thing has to be dealt with in its own way, but you're still headed to the head of the fish, right? You're still looking at what the outcome was. And I think that's what people have to understand about coaching process in general is that, yeah, you may be coming for this thing, but and you may want this thing, but what you really need is to overcome this other thing first, and it's all part of getting to that ultimate thing that you want. But the things that we have to address are often the things that you need to address, not always that you want to address.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because that kind of dovetails into a lot of what you and I have been talking about as far as what we do as coaches, you know? What do you think about the conversations we've been having on that?
I mean, listen, they've been very life centered. There's been a lot of life issues. There's been a lot of, and this is why you and I focus on both sides of the business and the life of the person that's running that business. And because it's holistic. And what I'm just seeing in the last week or so is we are really keeping to that holistic approach. And yes, we may be business intuitive coaches, but we're business and life and we're holistic. And that's what I'm seeing as the trend, that we're really living out our holistic approach. And that's why you and I work together. And I see you and I more and more becoming like each other in a lot of what we say and what we do, but that's part of it. And you're being sometimes more the life coach and sometimes I'm more the business coach, but that's just the nature of how it comes across and how we connect with the person and what the person needs and yada yada. But it's a holistic approach,
And
period.
that has happened where we've, stepped over to the other side of our disciplines. But what I have noticed is that while we have really learned what the other person does really, really well, just because of the amount of time we've spent and listening to each other, um, what happens though is that we still hold our own perspectives. Like we still have healthy debate and disagreement. We're very respectful of that.
Hmm.
And even last night you were talking about something, and I'm like, I agree with what Tom says, but there's also this other thing, this other side to it. And I think that's only made us more valuable to our clients because now we understand both modalities, life and business. Obviously one to more extent than the other, but it informs us and educates us into, well, where should the advice go for this client? And I think it's led to bigger disagreements for you and I because we have that better understanding of each other's disciplines.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's just I don't know if it's disagreement. I think it's just we're bringing always bringing two perspectives to the table. I think that is good for our clients in many ways because they can decide to lean either which way, but they've got the advice and the recommendations of two people that have differing opinions. And I think that's part of our unique style too, is I may yes you, you may not allow for that yes, right? I may say no and you may say yes, right? It's the beauty of the dynamic that we have cultivated. And we're in our senior year of college together, me and you. We've been 4 years, we're in our fourth year of working together on all of this stuff. And you know it's as long as being together for college,
Yeah.
and we've gotten a new education. But it's great to have the differing opinion. I love it. I love when like I'll say something, you'll be like, but this could be this and that. And I think it gives the client this confidence that, like, holy cow, these guys aren't afraid to disagree in really giving me what is ultimately the best advice, direction, coaching, and support that I need at the moment. And it's great to see because I could take elements from both of them.
Right. And that's usually what ends up happening, right? Is that they'll, because that's what it should be, right? It's like, hey, here's information. Now, how are you going to make it your own? What are you going to do with it? It's not just follow it blindly like a sheep. It's like, okay, now I have information that's useful that I can put into practice. And then how am I going to take a little bit of what Adam said and a little bit what Tom said and make it mine? And then the good
Right.
part about that is, we'll challenge them on, hey, well, explain it to us.
Right.
How are you going to go about doing that? And a lot of what we do in our meetings is asking people how are they going to achieve something. And when they explain it out, you can see like they've picked up on something that you've informed them, or a tactic that I've given them, and they've made it their own. And then we can even refine that together, which is really shows how progress is made.
Well, I think the best stuff always rises to the top in that situation, right? Those elements of both of us, yeah, we may spew a lot of stuff along the way, but ultimately the best of what we've said hopefully will be the thing that rises to the top for that person, and that's what they utilize and that's what they can take forward.
Yeah, and that, when I like that fishbone. We should do something with that fishbone. What was it called? A
It's a
fishbone what?
fishbone diagram. It's usually used for root cause analysis to determine what went wrong. It's a very, very cool exercise. We should do that with some of our clients.
Well, we
I
should
think
just
some of
build
our
it out is
people,
what I'm
yeah.
saying, like, make take that and make it our own because, if you're saying root cause analysis, right? That's a lot of what we do, and the main our spine for the majority of the clients that we meet with is trying to help them understand and discover what their next business move is, right? And then while they're doing that, do it to drive revenue and have the ability to create a life that they love. And
Mhm,
that's always been since day one what our mission has been is like, yeah, we can make a shit ton of money, but we want to also make the most amazing life possible. And so many people have compromised, and we've been lucky enough throughout our lives and the people that we've advised to show them the way and for us to live that way of like, hey, you can make money, you can live a great life. But what most people get stuck on is like, well, what's that next move?
mhm,
They're so scared. And here's what I've realized is people get scared to make their next business move because they're worried about both ends of it. And what I mean by that is they're worried about like, hey, I'm doing this thing that may work or I'm comfortable in doing it and I don't want to mess that up. And I have this great wonderful idea of what I could do next and I don't want to mess that up. And it's like they're caught between these two. I don't want to mess something up, so they don't take the next move. And that's been the biggest piece of help we have given any of our clients is just start moving, right? It's start making those next moves confidently and with this clarity and with this, surety of like, okay, it's only one more thing. Because
mhm,
most of them think like, all right, if I make this next move, I'm leaving this total thing behind. Or if I make this next move, I have to do everything that's at the end of the new thing. And when we're helping them to just go through and gain that focus and understand the next steps and what's the important of it and how do you prioritize things, like that allows for that momentum to take place. And because without taking the action, it's hard to have any information, right? That's information comes from action. And then they can see that. And that's been the biggest thing with the underlying piece of like, well, we're gonna make money and create this incredible life at the same time.
mhm. You know, you're today you're just opening up all my old quality management stuff. I was a senior director of quality management for a while in healthcare, and you're bringing out all my tools, right? We do this thing called the PDSA cycle: plan, do, study, act, and there's three actions in it, four actions in it actually. When you make a plan, right, and you make a plan and you just start doing it, and then after you do it, you study what the impact was, and then you take action on the thing that you need to tweak yet next, right? But we would do like these little things. It wasn't these big, bold moves. It was small pieces that we could see if the small thing made an impact on the larger thing without really disrupting everything. And we used to do these like for checking in processes and for wait times in a clinic setting, and we used to do all this stuff because we wanted to see if we could change one element, would it impact the rest of it? And that's what people are so afraid to do. And that's just anybody who's afraid of change, right? We're talking about what's the next business move that you want to make to generate revenue. And, that's what we're trying to get people to do. But they think it has to be this big thing. It's a small thing. And the reason why we did these PDSA cycles is because if you made small changes along the way, it was easier to make part of somebody's role and responsibility. It wasn't like you were changing their job. You were just tweaking an element of their job that would have a significant impact on everything else. And I think what we have to emphasize with people is that when you're not sure what to do next, just change the subtlest, the littlest thing to get you moving. Because like any snowball, it starts with a little ball that then rolls and rolls and rolls as you gain momentum and you pick up more speed, you pick up more information, like you're saying, and then you can execute on that change. And then it's not as scary. Then you don't worry as much about all the outcomes. And because a lot of times people don't make the change because they're thinking of, oh my God, like think about weight, right? Oh, I have to lose 40 pounds. If you're only thinking about the 40 pounds and the end result, you're never going to lose the first 2 pounds or the first pound. And that's where we're saying just start so that you can get to the end and then you figure it out. But you don't have to let that be the thing that deters you from starting to get to that point.
Well, I know you don't have that doesn't have to let you, but that is what we find in every one of our clients is letting them be deterred from making a change. And they either sit in procrastination or resentment or like, one day I'll do that thing and that it's frustrating and no one's out there talking about it. They're not like, hey, I'm really trying to make my next business move, but I don't know what to do. So that's what makes it hard for any coach, whether you're in our business or another type of coaching, is most people don't go out there and talk about that. But that's
Mhm.
literally what's happening. It's they are so nervous, and we happen to start with the business side of it because, at least from my experience, what I've realized, whether it's personally or advising people, it's that life doesn't usually get in the way of business moves. It's business moves get in the way of your life moves.
Yes.
And always people put that first.
Mhm.
Wha You can debate whether or not what should come first, the chicken or the egg,
Yeah.
you know, but it's like most business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople, they let their life come second, and until they make that business move, they're not allowing themselves to make that life move, whether it's to buy a house or have a family or take another vacation or take the days off that they've always wanted.
Right.
They put all that weight on the next business move, and that's really why have started there with all of our clients, is because if we can just start making those small little incremental changes on that, the life allows to go the way that you've wanted to go. Now that's why we work on it together, so we ensure that you're not leaving it, on the sidelines. But it's so amazing to watch when one little tiny incremental change happens in someone's business, what major changes happen in their life, whether it's their relationships get better or their priorities start to become clearer of like, hey, I really didn't care about that thing. I wanted to do this instead. But now they have the freedom, whether it's some kind of resource, whether it's time or money or energy, they have that freedom now to go ahead and do that. And it's like opening up a door for somebody and be like, "Okay, you can walk through." And they've been staring at that door for sometimes years.
Right.
And this is what really made me think, how I like to just sit and think and, like
Yep.
meditate with my eyes open and different things and let thoughts come to me. I started thinking about us and like who are our clients and where are they? And because we always do a good job at like, okay, let's narrow down our target market. Let's figure out what the niche is. Let's figure out, the ideal client. How do we turn them into prospects? Just like the course that we teach. But I've been thinking about it more and more and more. And we've gone through different iterations of who these people are. But really what it is it's people that have made a decision to start something new. It could be someone that's starting a new business completely. It could be someone that's deciding they're going to start taking what they're doing much more seriously, or it could be someone deciding they're going to stop this great thing because they have a passion for something else.
Mhm.
And there's a variety of others, but we've helped people from, being an employee to starting a business. Multiple times we've done that, but we've also helped people that have been doing what they're doing for, a med spa person for a decade, a photographer and videographer person for 20 years. We've helped those people really make this major shift inside of what they're doing. And it's like, okay, well, it's just I'm ready to now start something new.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that it's a completely different thing than what they've done.
No.
In some cases it is, but in some cases it's not. And that's what I'm looking at as the tying factor is someone's really ready. They're like they're ready in their mind, right? They've seen it and they're like, okay, I'm interested in it. And that's really maybe the difference is they're interested in starting something new. They're not committed yet, and they are trying to find information, validation, support in like, okay, I can now go from interested to committed. And that's really who we've been working with in any facet since day one, Tom.
Yeah, no, I can see that with every single client. It's always, what do I do next? What's the next thing? Where do I want to go? Who do I want this to be? Who do I want this business to be? And we go through all of that to help people find that direction. But it really is that major transition point where they're done with the corporate world. They want to start a business. They're it's
But
all of
they're
those
not.
things.
But that's what I'm saying is none of these people are really done yet. They're interested in
Instead,
starting
yes,
something new, and they're
yeah,
interested in being done with what they've done.
right.
It's
But
like a purgatory.
right, and sometimes because they're so afraid of what it means for their life, right? Because when you're in that state, you're comfortable. You know what your life is. I mean, look at me. I mean, I literally stopped working in corporate, and it took me a few years to build a business before I could say, okay, yeah, let me stop doing that, so I feel like I can maintain the lifestyle that I have, because I didn't want that to change, right? But so many people would stop and be like, "Nah, I'll never be able to maintain it. I'll never be able to do it. So I'm just gonna stay stuck over here, and I'm just gonna keep with the paychecks and all that other stuff." But you're right. It's they think about the impact on their life, and then that causes them stress in their business because they know what they need to do, but they're only interested because they're not ready to take that leap because they're afraid of what the outcome will be. So therefore, we never get started, and hence procrastination,
Right.
right? And stagnation, and all of those things that come about because you're just not willing to take the step. And that's what we really help people to do. We help people to have the confidence to take that next step. It's like learning to walk, like you see a little baby start to walk, and they let go of the table for the first time, and they turn around and they see you, and what do they see from you as the parent? They see the encouragement. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. And that's kind of like what we do for people. We're kind of like that parent at times. Come on, you can do this. Take that next step. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about the rest. We'll figure it out as we go along.
But that's the issue. It's that next steppers, right? They're so scared to take that next step. And I've often said to people that having success, it's not really about what you're doing. It's about who you're becoming.
Correct.
And if your goals and your intuition aren't really aligned up together, then you're constantly going to spin your wheels. And that's really a lot of what we do is we help people to pull out these things that they already know deep down inside of
Mhm.
themselves, but they're so scared to take an action on it. They're so scared to make a decision on it. And that intuition gets squashed by their intelligence and trying to find, like, okay, where do I have evidence that this absolutely will work? Where do I have an experience that, okay, this thing can be for me? And you don't. You have an intuition, you have a feeling, you have that gut feeling that it's like, I should do this, but then they get stuck in it and it's like, oh, I can't trust it. And it's not the thing that you're doing right now. It's what you are becoming. And then the only way to become that is to take action. And the only way to take action is to make decisions. And the only way to make a decision is to trust. And that's really what we do for most of our people. As you stated earlier, it's give them the trust, not in us, give them the trust in themselves.
That is very, very powerful because trust is a blind thing for a lot of people. And for people who are alphas and go-getters and people who really are very intelligent, they need the evidence to support anything that they do. They need the scientific method, so to speak, on what they're
Mhm.
about to do. And we've always said, and I've always said this: show up consistently, do the work, trust the process. A third of what you have to do is trusting the whole process. But you have to put the trust in the thing. You do have to show up and do the work to make it happen. But if you put in the effort and you make the changes and you take the steps that you need to take, and then you allow for trust because you've done all of that, you trust in yourself to know that whatever happens, you're gonna figure it out. And that's what it comes down to. And some people lack the confidence to see that they will be able to figure it out, that they can trust themselves to figure it out if it does not work out the way they expect it to work out. People are just so afraid of failing. They're so afraid of failing. And I was watching Derek Jeter did a commencement speech this week, and he talked about failure, like how failure is all part of the journey. You've got to fail. It is inevitable that you're going to fail, and that's what stops people from even taking that next step because they're afraid of the failure that comes along with it. So it's a battle of faith, it's a battle of failure, it's a battle of self-rejection and self-worth and all these other things that come into play as someone is contemplating, "What's my next step? What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to?" And that's where we really help people to figure that out.
But it's as you stated, it's about the trust, and so many people, in order to transform their life and their business, they're looking out there for this thing, and it's not
Yeah.
sitting out there somewhere. It's already inside of you,
Mhm.
and it's just a matter of uncovering it and having the ability to then, like, okay, walk the path.
Right.
And that's really, you need support and you need guidance for that, but you don't need to read a book and then emulate or implement what they're saying. It's you have to have the ability to look deep down inside of what are my desires and why are they that way and where am I going to go with them and what am I going to do? And it's very simple, but it's very difficult, right? And as we always say, business and life are simple, they're just not easy. But it is sitting inside of you. We are intelligent beings. All this other useful information that's out there in the world came from someone just like you. They just happen to have the presence of mind to trust what they were saying, write it down on paper, and share it with the world. Well, what if you just shared your information at least with yourself?
Yeah. We complicate it. We always complicate it. Like, when I first started life coaching, I would always do this exercise with people when they were trying to figure out what's the next career move or what they wanted to do next. And it was always, what comes naturally to you? What's the thing that is natural for you to do? Oh, or what did you want to be when you grew up, right? That question, that limiting question. I hate that question because it is so limiting because we could be so many things when we grow up. Like, it's one of my least favorite questions. But the point is that, what did you wanna be? Because what you wanted to be, there is some inherent truth about you as an individual and what your intuition is trying to guide you to exercise on, right? Like, I was working with this kid that was, in college. He just started college as freshman. He was a musician and a mechanical engineer, and he loved his music, and he really liked mechanical engineering. And I said he was struggling with it because he was like, "How am I gonna make all this work?" And I'm like, "Find a way to bring the 2 together." But you have to trust that you are a musician for a reason. You like mechanical engineering for a reason. And you have to trust that those 2 things are somehow meant to come together in your life. And you have to figure that out. But you have to know that if your gut is telling you to move in one of those directions or in both directions, you have to trust that and keep going. And that's what we try to tell everybody is, you already have all the answers. You already know exactly what you need to do. You're just too afraid to do it, or you're not sure what the next right step is, and that's where we just help you intuitively connect to you and understand what you really need, and we help you to give yourself the permission to do that next thing. And that next thing requires just one little action to start going.
And sometimes you don't even need a coach to do that, right? You just need the right resources or the right people all around you to have the
Mhm.
ability to just be vulnerable enough to have these thoughts out loud, right? And
Yeah.
I mean that's why we created our club, First M. It's to bring those types of people together that are going through this, that maybe they're on the right track. They've made that decision to move forward, but as they walk the path, they start to get skeptical because they don't know if it's right or wrong. And even when they do go out there and look other places, they don't know what to trust. So when you bring the right people around you, whether it's a coach or a club like we have of other entrepreneurs talking about their struggles and successes, or a mentor, when you have those right people around you, you can start. discussing each other's evidence that's real, right? And close to you. And because you may have already built a trust in that person, whether it's a coach or a fellow entrepreneur that you meet with once in a while or all the time, like in our club, like you have the ability then to really listen to that conversation instead of just hearing it. And that's a major difference is like people will consume all of this amazing content. There's literally, this is the greatest time in the world. There's so much incredible content out there, but you don't know what to listen to. You hear it in passing and you scroll to the next thing or you read the next book or you listen to the next podcast. And it's like, all right, but you don't do anything with it because there's a lack of that connection and trust between that. And whether it's a coach or like in our club, you get an opportunity to connect with somebody so you can trust in them, not just in yourself.
Well, part of that trust and building trust in yourself is being able to validate what you're thinking and feeling and what you think you need to do next. And that's where our first M Club is such an important environment for people because it gives them that validation for something they already knew. And now you can trust it that much more because somebody else experienced the same thing. And that's, the success with most things in life, whether you're building a business or you're recovering from substance use or you're trying to improve your diet, it's always better when you have a support group of people around you that are doing the same thing you're doing because it becomes the validation tool that so many people just need in order to trust themselves more. And when you constantly validate and recognize, oh, yeah, I know what the hell I'm doing, I got this, I can trust myself. It's like enough. It's enough with the nonsense. I found the signal, I got rid of the noise, and I can trust that I'm doing the right thing because I have validation that other people have experienced similar situations. And now that will give me the confidence to take the next step. So that's the beauty of having and that's why I love how we have formulated the first M Club to be, the mastermind piece of it is such an important component because you get to hear from other people what they've gone through and they give you their advice and they help you and you can help them with situations you face that they may not have faced.
Yeah, and the reason we called it First M was we're bringing people together who are they all have the same goal of making their first million. And most of them in the beginning, because we've done this for years now, most of those people think it's like such a giant milestone. And it does, like, when you're
It
looking up
is.
at it, it is, but it's not when you have the right people and the right resources around you, it's really not. It's not a
Yeah.
big task to achieve, to go out and do. Like, it's just about continuously doing that thing. And when you have people around you who are driving the same track, it's easier to pace with them. It's easier to pull them up to you and motivate them. It's easier when you're left behind to be like, "Oh, I'm going to catch up." When you're all alone on an island, it's really difficult to have a perception that is based in reality. And that's most of what happens in this mastermind is that people are just sharing their reality. It doesn't mean that it's like this wisdom of epiphanies nonstop. It means it's real. Like this is actually what's going on because you can listen to all the talking heads out there and the gurus, and yeah, they have great advice. Even us sometimes we have great advice, right? But how did we get there? Right? There's all these things in between from what we're saying you can do and how we got there that allows you to actually continually walk that path. And when you get a group of people who are on that journey at the same time, the reality is like, oh, we are doing this, not I hope I can do this one day.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Wow. This was a lot of good stuff today.
There you go.
I love doing these. It really opens up my eyes to even just the insights to see the patterns in what we're doing every single day. And that's what I think people just need to take away from this too is be observant. Be observant of the things around you, but be observant of the things within you that are speaking to you. Because if you can be observant of that, the signs will follow. The things will follow and the actions will easily follow because you'll know you're on the right path. It's just having the courage to trust your intuition, the courage to trust that you don't have to have every little bit of evidence to get going. Sometimes you just have to get going. And that's the beauty of the gift of intuition that we've all been given. So go give yourself permission to do something today that you've been holding off doing. And if you can give yourself that permission, you might see a whole world change because of one little thing that you started.